What's up, everybody? Jim and Eric here to talk about the latest episode of Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. 4,722 hours. A lot of cool stuff in this episode.
Yeah.
You've likened it to The Martian.
Yeah.
And you think it might just be the best episode yet.
Yeah, first of all, it was kind of funny because I was late to The Martian. I only saw The Martian this past weekend. But very similar as far as just like this person sort of left alone there to their own devices. She's a scientist, so it's very much like what can she do to survive in this case. Right. But yeah, I think it might be my favorite episode of S.H.I.E.L.D. I mean, it's so different from a typical episode of this show. I mean, it was like I was watching the first few minutes, I go, oh, this is going to be the whole episode, isn't it? Like just following her there, and I thought that was a really cool choice.
Well, I mean, we saw her come back, and now we're getting, the seeds kind of, well, not the seeds, but the explanations of what happened there. Tell us a little bit about what you thought of the character of Will and how it affects sort of her relationship with Fitz.
I thought Will worked, yeah, I mean, you could sort of like roll your eyes a little that he's sort of like conveniently like hunky TV handsome guy there for her. I will say, like, yeah, I could see from the beginning, like, oh, she's going to get together with him romantically. But I thought it worked. I mean, they only had this one episode to kind of sell us on this on 6 months situation, the two of them together, and I thought they did. I mean, I think they were very careful to have it that she doesn't fall into this guy's arms and say, oh yeah, you're the only guy around, let's have sex. It's when they finally sleep together, it's at their most desolate, like when they almost get a message home, but it fails. I thought that worked. I really felt like they succeeded, and even if you could see things coming, I thought it worked. And I think with the Fitz situation, like, it's pretty ingenious, right? Like, TV always has the will they or won't they thing. And how do you keep the couple apart to keep the tension? I'm like, well, being trapped on another planet with a guy who helped you survive, I mean, I think that's a pretty good way to throw
I think you probably get a pass on that.
You get a pass on that, right?
If you think you're going to die on an alien planet, let's talk about that alien planet a little bit. A lot of people are speculating, and I'm sure we'll find out in the coming episodes more about the planet, obviously.
Yeah.
So, but where do you think they are? Is this a planet from the Marvel comics, or is this a new creation?
It's hard, because I remember after the season premiere aired, like Terry Schwartz actually wrote for us like a feature kind of guessing planets that could be from Marvel lore, and even that other planet from Thor: The Dark World where he and Loki went.
Right, yeah.
But this episode, there was nothing that really stood out that made me go, oh, it's definitely that. I still think it could be something obscure from Marvel. I mean, it feels like they would like to do that, use a name.
Yeah.
But the whole description, like the fact that it, like, oh, this once, it was theorized that this once was like a paradise, and that basically it got corrupted and became this dead place. That's all interesting, but it also didn't make me go, oh, it's that.
Right.
So now I have no idea,
and we're certain that this is a place in space. It's not another dimension or anything.
I mean, I feel like they could throw us a curveball. Like Simmons seemed convinced that she was in space, like that she was like other galaxy. But who knows? I mean, she literally went through a portal, so it could have sent her anywhere.
I mean, but look at Thor and stuff. Yeah. It's technically another dimension, but it is in space.
But then again, when I think about it, there was a lot with her getting home. The fact that she figured out, that they found that old pirate compass, and she kind of used it to use the stars and that idea. So it seemed like it's supposed to be our outer space. Okay. But
what's the over/under in that? That's Jack Sparrow. It is Disney.
That would be an ingenious Disney tie-in.
Would be nice, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about some little nods that movie buffs might catch. 2001, a lot of Kubrickian kind of little.
I feel like, I mean, it was hard not to from the moment they kept saying the monolith this season.
Yeah.
Oh, the monolith did this, and that's kind of your big go-to when there's monoliths. The fact that Will had been there since the year 2001.
Right.
I feel like, they could have picked any year.
Yeah, could have picked 2010, the sequel.
Yeah, that's true. I think that was probably pretty purposeful.
And you were kind of joking that you don't think the math on his age quite adds up.
Well, Dylan Casey.
He's kind of like the Wesley Crusher then of now.
Yeah, or the Doogie Howser. Because what Dylan Casey, who, if you're a Nikita fan like me, that's where you recognize him from, who played Will, he's 31, I think, in real life. I know he's early 30s, and so for him to have been there since 2001, and he even mentions that he was a Air Force guy recruited by NASA, so he had a history.
Yeah.
like, was he 15?
Yeah,
Flying for the Air Force?
He's like the kid from Iron Eagle.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. So I don't know if that quite works. Let's just assume he's playing older than he is, and we can let that go.
Any final thoughts on this episode? And
I just really admire, so my wife doesn't regularly watch S.H.I.E.L.D. She hasn't since the first few episodes, which I know is the case for a lot of people. And I felt like this is an episode I'm telling people, like, even if you don't watch S.H.I.E.L.D., check it out, because I had it on and she wasn't paying attention, and then she did start paying attention. She's like, this is great. She had no investment going into it. She wasn't following any of the storylines. It really did work, because, just the moment that began, and you see Simmons there, and I also have to mention, I want to mention how good Elizabeth Henstridge was in this episode, carrying it. Obviously, it's just her for a while, then it's just her and Dylan Casey. She was amazing, sort of so many emotions, and so yeah, like even Trish watching it, who doesn't watch the show normally, is like, oh, this is great. I mean, they really managed to do a mini movie that feels very standalone and like something you could just say, hey, like, you and I were talking about. It's not like they came up with a brand new idea. A lot of TV shows and movies have done this, including The Martian. You know?
There's Enemy Mine. There's Robinson Crusoe.
You mentioned a Battlestar episode,
the old Battlestar Galactica series. And it may have been actually Galactica 1980.
Yeah.
But they had it that Starbuck, Dirk Benedict's version, had been left on this deserted planet and ended up having a relationship with like a space angel and had a kid from it and all that. But he's like left to die on this friggin' planet. And you're like, come on, man, Starbuck.
Well, thankfully Simmons wasn't left there. But yeah, I felt like they took an idea we've seen before, but did it really well. And in the confines of a TV show where I just think a couple years ago we would never imagine S.H.I.E.L.D. would do, this episode that's just Simmons on an alien planet trapped.
That's going to be the episode years to come doing conventions when people, what's your favorite episode? And she's going to just talk about this one.
Well, yeah, but she'd have a good reason to.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, well, we want to know what you guys think of this episode. For all things Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., keep it here on IGN.